Hello, it's Debbie Potts, and I'm on a mission to help you be fit and healthy from the inside out as you age. So, those that are similar to me, that we're getting older, over 50, maybe you're in your 40s, you're starting to think about how do you want to live life when you are your parents' age, 70s, 80s, 90s. I'm on a mission to thrive as I age and live my best life the second half of my life. And part of that is my purpose to help you figure out what is best for you as a unique individual to improve the aging process. As a nutritional therapy practitioner, and I'm also a functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner, FDN, where we like to investigate what is actually going on from the inside out using functional lab testing, nutritional therapy assessment, looking at what you're doing now and figuring out clues. Put the missing pieces of the puzzle together for you to be your best self, to live your best life, to thrive as you age. Part of that, I really think is important to know what is going on from the inside out with functional lab testing. We can't just do one test. Ideally, we have 3 tests, a gut test, blood chemistry panel, and ideally food sensitivity or a food zoomer or a leaky gut test. So I like to know what is going on client's life externally. So those chronic stressors accumulate from our lifestyle, the way we live life, maybe living life as a race, not as a journey, and then internal sources of hidden stress impact hormones, immune function, digestion, detoxification, energy systems, and your nervous system. So today I wanted to touch on gut health and leaky gut, as I've been doing many podcasts lately on gut health with Dr. Tom O'Brien, and we've got Dr. William Davis coming on the show, and Dr. Angus with the FODMAP test, a SIBO test. But where did this start? So if you listen to Dr. Tom O'Brien's interview I posted, a lot of this information comes from Dr. Fasano. All disease begins in the gut. If you have a leaky gut, and the role of zonulin-mediated gut permeability, leaky gut, talking about chronic inflammatory diseases. Now, you can go through and dig into the science behind this chronic inflammation, gut permeability, and your microbiome, and zonulin. I do lab testing, not just on athletes. I have clients of all levels who are trying to figure out how to feel their best. Maybe they're just struggling to get their body composition right. Perhaps they're training for a big race or event that they want to help be successful at. Maybe they don't have any symptoms at all, and they're just trying to be health optimizers and take ownership of their future self now. We want to look at gut health, and you might not, as I said, have any symptoms, but there's gut inflammation in most of us. Everyone I test seems to be reactive to wheat, has high endotoxins, LPS levels, and damage to their gut wall lining, mucosal barrier, showing some higher CRP levels, C-reactive protein in their blood chemistry panel. Now, I'm not a doctor at all. I just am a practitioner, but I'm a health investigator. I look this stuff up. I spend hours and hours on my clients' lab assessments and help them take this information to their doctor who doesn't necessarily have the time or maybe not the interest in going into the why. Why is this happening? Why is this elevated? Why is this low? What is actually going on? And put the missing pieces of that puzzle together. So great pictures on this research from Dr. Fasano on what happens, the loss of mucosal immune homeostasis. Homeostasis is that balance, right? We've got normal controlled permeability here, number one. Then we have minor barrier defect, dietary microbial AG influx here, causing innate or immune regulatory defect, leading to pro-inflammatory allergic cytokines. Then we've got number 3, increased permeability. See, this is the gut wall lining. This is optimal right here. We have these. The gut should have closure in between those tight junctions. Things that are supposed to stay in the small intestine aren't supposed to leave through these lines. Yeah, we get a little more damage, more space between those tight junctions, and we get leaks out. So we get this third level here, increased permeability. You can see there's a little more space between these tight junctions as the gut wall lining starts to get damaged, and we get this vicious cycle he talks about. Breakdown of tolerance, resistant T cells, tissue damage, chronic inflammation, allergy. From this massive dietary microbial antigen influx, your SIG-A levels on your GI test I do, your stool test, will be possibly really elevated or really low. And we see this in our correlations to other lab tests and put it together. Food sensitivities, a wheat zoomer has your LPS and leaky gut markers on there. So I would do a wheat zoomer or leaky gut type of test, wheat zoomers by Vibrant Wellness, a gut test as Genova Diagnostics or GI Map, or the gut zoomer by Vibrant Wellness, and get a comprehensive blood chemistry test that has your full thyroid panel, has the inflammatory markers, vitamin D levels. We want to look at it all, put it together. So this has his proposal years ago when this came out, the introduction to leaky gut and the role of zonulin, proposed chain events leading to chronic inflammatory disease. I'm saying this because a lot of athletes think they are doing all the right things by exercising. Maybe they're focused on eating real food, but I see a lot of athletes be fit and healthy, maybe on the outside, muscularly, but they're not healthy on the inside. And we'll talk more about how gut health can be impacted with extra exercise. And of course, wheat levels. So zonulin is a marker in the GI stool test that we can find out if that's elevated, if we have signs of leaky gut. So you can learn more about the zonulin pathway and its activation in this article, PubMed, Challenges in Measuring Zonulin, and it talks about the role of zonulin in chronic diseases. But look at this chronic inflammatory diseases that have been linked, which zonulin has been linked as a biomarker to gut permeability. Well, aging, that's one of them. So look at this long list. It goes on. And I think it's important, like I have non-celiac gluten sensitivity. I am prone to type 2 diabetes. My dad passed away of heart disease, but I think that was a combination having kidney issues and a type of cancer. But looking at your genetics is really important. That's what I'm doing with the Wild Health Fellowship Program, which is another podcast coming up on my results. Then we have autoimmune diseases, celiac disease, type 1 diabetes, inflammatory bowel disease, multiple sclerosis, ankylosis, spondylitis. These are different autoimmune issues. And then we have metabolic disorders, obesity, and then intestinal diseases, which I find a lot of people are having signs and symptoms of. Irritable bowel syndrome, non-celiac gluten sensitivity triggered by gluten, but without autoimmune issues. Have increased serum zonulin levels and increased leaky gut following gluten exposure. Environmental enteric dysfunction, chronic disease, proximal intestine. So you can go into all this, cancer, I mean, it just goes on and on. So I'm not obviously going to go through it, but that's where this all started with leaky gut with Dr. Fasano's research. So you can look at this article, of Dr. Jockers has a histamine, leaky gut functional lab markers. So how do you test this? The gut health axis. What is impacted? The liver, immune, skin. So a lot of people think that if they have gut inflammation, they are going to have bloating, gas, runny stools, diarrhea, or the opposite, constipation. But you could have skin issues. You could have allergies, asthma, inflammation, the immune part of it. Like my nose keeps being stuffy all the time. My eyes are watering. So some type of allergies. I know I get some dry skin behind my ear, TMI, but I get medication from a doctor every now and then, but it doesn't treat why do I get it. It just puts it away and it comes back. So if you're on medications, they're just Band-Aids. They're not figuring out why do you have issues. But maybe it's because what you're eating, how you're eating, when, why, and your gut microbiome dysbiosis. So we want to look at SIBO. We want to look at dysbiosis. We want to look at, do you have pathogens? Do you have candida, yeast overgrowth? All of these different functions, brain, heart, oral health, hormone issues, your low thyroid can be connected to what you're eating and leaky gut. So check out drjockers.com. Intestinal permeability is leaky gut. So if you don't know if your gut is leaking, your gut lining is healthy, it should be semi-permeable. But if it's not healthy, we're allowing nutrients that are not broken down to get through. So this is what he talks about. The tiny gateways are very small, undigested food particles, microbes, and toxins are unable to get through. This helps keep your gut and the rest of the body healthy when they aren't able to get through. Pathogens can't get past, but eventually get eliminated through urine or stool. What happens when we get this leak in our gut? So that's a healthy gut, but the problem occurs in inflammatory foods, infections, toxins, chronic stress I've talked about for years. These external factors compromise the health of your gut lining. Dr. Jocker's article says, ongoing exposure to these factors can seriously damage your gut lining and break apart these tiny passageways, creating bigger holes. And when these bigger holes develop, your gut lining becomes permeable and you develop intestinal permeability or leaky gut syndrome. So not only do the important micronutrients get passed through your blood system, your bloodstream, but the holes are big enough for those undigested food particles, toxins, microbes, and pathogens to also easily get through. So Dr. Tom O'Brien talks about this as your cheesecloth, and you get holes in those cheesecloths. So these particles shouldn't be passing through your bloodstream. By getting in there, they can cause serious damage. Leaky gut can increase chronic inflammation and compromise your immune system. It can be leading to an ongoing chronic immune response to these foreign substances, which increases the risk of chronic symptoms, autoimmunity, and other health problems. So as we get more research out, allergies, immune issues, the risk goes along with leaky gut can increase the risk for intestinal, whoops, I'm reading that wrong, but leaky gut versus healthy gut. You can see all these different diseases as Dr. Fasano's article correlates together. So a healthy gut works as a cheesecloth, as Dr. Tom O'Brien also said, allowing only nutrients to get through, but keeping the larger food particles that are not broken down. And key is that pathogenic bacteria, that LPS, we want to keep those endotoxins out. Yeast, parasites, we don't want to get them out into the mainstream body. In a leaky gut, these tight junctions are loosened. So undigested food particles and pathogens can get through and activate the immune system, causing inflammation, chronic inflammation, and food sensitivities. So you go back to the research article, and all disease starts with a leaky gut. As he goes on and on, all these diseases, remember, leaky gut related. So if we see this loss of mucosal immune homeostasis, that healthy gut wall lining, this is his proposed chain of events leading to chronic inflammatory disease. Number one, under physiological circumstances, there is a tightly control of mucosal antigen trafficking. And you can see, I'm not going to go into that. It gets too sciencey. Gut dysbiosis can cause inappropriate production of increased amount of zonulin, functional loss of gut barrier function, followed by microbiota-derived antigen, endotoxins trafficking from the lumen into the lamina propria, those are the cellular level, triggering innate and immune regulatory responses causing pro-inflammatory milieu. The adaptive immune response is mounted, causing production of pro-inflammatory cytokines. And you'll think about this when you listen to Dr. Tom O'Brien's interview, that he talks about this as the immune system and the team. So you think the Navy SEAL, the Marines, the Army, everyone comes out and is up to fight this battle. So going back to Dr. Jocker's pictures, you can see the immune cells, food sensitivity, create antibodies to these foods that used to be good for you. Now your body's tagged them as enemies. We get this gut that's supposed to be healthy with these tight junctions in here, but then they start to get broken down and compromised, and items that couldn't get through before with these tight junctions, we now see getting through into the bloodstream. So great visual, I think, always helps. So you can read, how does leaky gut develop, right? Inflammatory foods, refined sugar, refined oils, seed oils, gluten, dairy, artificial ingredients, foods that your body is tagged as reactive sensitivity foods. High histamine foods can be an issue. Looking at your genetics can tell you a little bit more with that. Zonulin released by gluten plays a role in the development of leaky gut and autoimmunity. Gut infections, including small intestinal bacterial overgrowth that we're talking about with Dr. Angus. Candida overgrowth, bacteria overgrowth, intestinal parasites, viral infections. All this can compromise your gut, dysbiosis, increase your risk for leaky gut. Again, the symptoms can be far removed from your gut. Doesn't mean you just would have bloating. So look at this: gut root causes of gut inflammation, inflammatory diet, food sensitivities, low stomach acid, gut infections, medications, SIBO, poor bile flow and enzyme production, chronic stress, which happened to me, poor sleep, and important topic is poor vagal tone. We talked in a podcast a couple weeks about gut-brain connection and the vagal nerve. So symptoms of leaky gut, right? We talked about all those. Food allergies, food sensitivities, food intolerances, skin problems, insomnia, sleep issues, brain fog, memory issues, mood imbalances, headaches, migraines, getting sick often, slow recovery from illness, hormonal imbalances, PCOS, autoimmune, celiac, Crohn's, rheumatoid arthritis, Hashimoto's, psoriasis. I mean, it just goes on. So here's a great picture to summarize that. Gut inflammation causes a number of signs and symptoms, including nutritional vitamin deficiencies, headaches, candida. How do you know if you have this? You might have symptoms of histamine intolerance, right? Might be me right now, runny nose all the time. Actually, that would be me. My nose is running all the time lately. I don't know, couldn't figure out why. So histamine intolerance might be that, congestion, runny nose. All right, to answer your question, what do I do? How do I test this? Key lab markers for leaky gut and histamine. Zonulin, LPS, which is in, these two are in your wheat zoomer. We do for leaky gut and zoom into the parts of wheat, but that's telling us our LPS levels in IgA and IgG. Zonulin is a marker on the blood test, and we also look at this on the gut test too, the stool test. So we can verify if you have leaky gut, damage to your gut with excess zonulin. DAO enzymes, histamine, DAO to histamine ratio, elastase, steatocrit, SIG levels, calprotectin. Those are on your stool test. So you can look at the key markers for these, and he dives into all this. But zonulin is something I would look into. You may feel fine, and you may accept that how you feel is your new normal, that this is how you feel. You don't maybe know how much better you could feel, that you're settling for this is how I am. That drives me nuts. I don't want you to just settle. This is how I am. This is how aging is. No, it's not. Let's be health optimizers and care about ourselves enough to invest in our health and do some lab testing. Functional lab testing, you can order with a practitioner through Rupa Health, work with a practitioner and a coach as myself, but your doctor and insurance don't cover these, so it's sad. LPS is a big thing I've been diving into. It's a bacterial endotoxin inflammation. Where are LPS? Lipopolysaccharides are an important part of the outer membrane of gram-negative bacteria. They're the outer layer of the membrane and it are exposed to the surface of the cell. When released into the bloodstream, they activate inflammatory pathways in the body. So LPS levels is what I look at when I do the gut test, and I know Dr. Gundry does this as well, and other doctors in their functional medicine programs. Endotoxins. You can kind of sense what that means. Not good. DAO, do you have too much histamine? Are you like me and your nose is stuffy and your nose is dripping every morning? So I might have potential histamine-related problems. Eating too much food that has histamine. So what foods have histamine in them? I want to look that up. Histidine converts to histamine. In the stomach, the organ in the stomach stimulates production of hydrochloric acid. In the brain, histamine helps with neurotransmitter, regulates sleep, hormonal secretion of memory formation, brain arousal. Histamine in the immune system acts as a vasodilator in allergies and immune system response. So dilating versus constricting, so bigger. Histamine ratio and more. So again, you can test. The GI map is one test that we can do. Find your elasticase, your steatocrit. Those are two markers. SIG-A levels, we look at that in the GI test, intestinal mucosal barrier. So hopefully that gives you some insight of, okay, what I want to know. I want to know more. What's going on inside of my gut? Am I doing what I can do to be my best future self? Again, if you don't test, you don't know how to personalize a program to measure your progress. So we want some baseline data, retest every 4 to 6 months, seeing if what you're doing is helping. But if you're not able to measure anything, we can't see our progress, can't track. So I think Dr. Jockers wins and Dr. Axe of the best infographics, but fecal calprotectin and gut inflammation is something I see elevated a lot in clients' lab tests when they do the stool test. What does that mean? More information on this article. And then immune trigger, pathogens, inflammatory food, environmental toxins impact the gut-mediated immune system. The immune system's activated with the innate and adaptive immune response. So think the Navy SEALs and the Marines and the Army all come out to respond to the effective mucosa, which secretes inflammatory mediators. And we have protein spilling during early stage of inflammation. These proteins spill from the mucosa into the gut lumen. You can see number 3. And then stage 4, where did stage 4 go? Stage 4 is proteins released into the mucosa, factors released into the epithelium and the mucosal layer, including calprotectin, and then proteins are in your stool. This contains inflammatory proteins and they come out in the stool, and that's how we get this measurement. So good information, because most people think they feel okay when they get these results and see how much is elevated. We also always look at your blood chemistry panel. Now, everyone gets their annual physical from their doctor. They get the basic blood markers. And 99.9% of the time, clients come back from the doctor to say, everything's normal. I'm good. Nothing's wrong with me. Well, I put these lab markers into our FDN functional practitioner ranges, which are just optimal. And we'll see if they're higher or lower than the optimal, not normal, optimal ranges. And then what does that mean? I look through my sheet and go, okay, if it's high, it can mean blah, blah, blah. If it's lower than that, it can be correlated to da, da, da. Stomach acid, for example, HCl, is essential for digesting protein, absorbing key minerals as calcium, iron, zinc, and phosphorus. Also needed to sterilize food coming into our bodies, keeping overall bacteria and microbes in balance. As we age, or if we have certain infections, stressors, or other health problems, we lose the ability to produce enough HCl to absorb the nutrients properly and keep our microbiome in balance. When this happens, this leads to a number of problems, domino effect. So to look in the blood test, for example, low HCl can be seen with certain patterns. So you can look at this infographic below, but we're looking at low total proteins, low BUN, low globulins, low or high AG ratio is related to zinc deficiency, low chloride, high MCV. Other labs you might see zinc, B12, iron are also going to be low. So this is what we wanted, more of an investigative approach, looking at optimal ranges and putting all these labs as clues and your signs and symptoms, nutritional therapy, your life stressors, your sleep schedules, your signs and symptoms we see from the food you eat and how you react to that food. It's a little more complicated than just getting a blood test and saying, hey, those are all in range. And it doesn't really help you be your best self. So we want to look at these optimal ranges and functional lab ranges, a lot more narrower, and put that together with your other information. So Dr. Jockers, I didn't get to my other articles, so I'll put all this in the show notes, but more information, Dr. Fasano, another article on leaky gut, gluten sensitivity, leaky guts when the tight junctions are damaged. So these tight junctions, another picture you can see in here, and that allows chemicals and toxins access the bloodstream. We get immune abnormalities, increased food allergies, autoimmune issues. So it's a great interview here with Dr. Fasano and Dr. Osborne of the Gluten-Free Society, making the connection of all these diseases we have in our society. Gluten, antibodies, medications, stressors, bacteria, gut dysbiosis, cytokines, that pro-inflammatory cytokine storm we've heard about, chemicals that damage cells, neurochemical changes that change the production of neurotransmitters as serotonin, dopamine, all that. So gluten is a neurotoxin. It's been shown to damage nerve tissue. So it can be related to neurological diseases and digestive chemicals. Gluten can damage the intestine, the pancreas, liver, gallbladder, and these can play a role in the body's ability to produce digestive chemicals and enzymes. So what do? Restore leaky gut, remove gluten from the diet. And those might say, well, if I'm in Europe, I'm fine. But that's another conversation. The wheat, gluten, and our environmental toxins are different, I think, in North America. Food rules are a little different, how they are made in our soil. But investigate food allergies, nutritional deficiencies, restore healthy bacteria, your dysbiosis. We'll talk about the super gut yogurt I've been making with Dr. William Davis, improve your immune function, vitamin D, anti-inflammatories, help in the healing process. And of course, most people can benefit from digestive enzymes. So leaky gut contributes to autoimmune disease. You can take this gluten sensitivity quiz. The only known cause for any autoimmune disease is gluten sensitivity. When we blind fools to ignore this connection because it does not fit the status quo allopathic medicine. If you have autoimmune disease and have not investigated gluten sensitivity as contributing factor, learn about the genetic testing and this quiz here on the Gluten-Free Society. So there is that information. There's, the gluten sensitivity test, Dr. Jockers I'll post. Dr. Fasano's great research article is here with all those diseases and all of the research connected that all disease begins in the gut, a leaky gut, the role of zonulin-mediated gut permeability, and the pathogenesis of some chronic inflammatory diseases, Then I found this other article, Leaky Gut and Autoimmunity. That was another one to look at. And then another great resource is Dr. Amy Myers. I'm trying to get her on the podcast, but you can see her information on her podcast, blog, and her products are very helpful. And again, it's best not to self-treat, work with a practitioner, but fixing leaky gut to avoid these 10 mistakes. You can check out her leaky gut suggestions. But if you have eczema, brain fog, seasonal allergies, digestion, fixing leaky gut takes time. People want everything fixed in a week or so, but it takes, we do 90-day protocols and we do phases. We don't do all of this at once. So fixing a leaky gut takes time. So it's called the 4R approach. And you want to start removing the bad foods, eliminate all factors that negatively affect the gut environment. Inflammatory foods, toxic foods, intestinal infections as yeast, overgrowth, and SIBO. Okay. Next, restore what's missing. Add some digestive enzymes. Have some betaine HCl that helps your stomach acidity. Support optimal digestion and nutrient absorption while assisting leaky gut repair and inflammation, decreasing the inflammation response. Okay, next phase. This isn't all at once. Re-inoculate with healthy bacteria. This is what I'm doing with the super gut yogurt. You ferment it for 38 hours. It's pretty tasty. I just had some today. Replenish the beneficial bacteria in your gut. It helps reestablish a healthy gut environment. So think of your garden. We want to get rid of the weeds, the bad guys. They're all over my yard lately because we've had so much rain this winter. And then fill it up with the good guys. Get those good bacteria outnumbering the bad bacteria. And then lastly, repair the gut. Give your body the nutrients it needs to heal itself. L-glutamine, bone broth, collagen, omega-3 fatty acids, vitamin D, zinc, slippery elm, aloe vera, green tea are things that I hear about, curcumin. So that is a protocol, but remember, there's mistakes you can make. And this is when people self-treat and just try to read too much information and do it themselves. We want to course correct as we go and pay attention and use our intuition. So eating too many raw vegetables, not trying elimination diet, cheating on your gut healing protocol. People maybe do good for a day and then go off of it. Someone told me once you are pregnant or you're not pregnant. So taking time to be wheat grain free. So go back to but Vinnie Tortorich did no sugar, no grains years ago at SNG. That is something you might want to do, but you can't just do it part-time. Eating when you're stressed out. I always ask people how you could be eating all this great food, but are you being mindful or mindless when you eat? Are you snacking while you're cooking? And then you sit down to eat and you eat really fast. You're not even finish chewing your food before you put another bite in. Are you cleaning up and eating off your kids' dishes? So eating when you're stressed out and missing one or more of the 4 R's. So sticking with a gut treatment protocol takes time, takes patience, consistency, and being dedicated to it. So you're removing the toxic inflammatory foods, but you can't just take the supplements. You have to work on the whole you, which is why I created the holistic method. We want to remove inflammatory foods, but you have to work on the stress and the sleep and the lifestyle habits. You can't out-supplement poor lifestyle habits. So 10 mistakes when you are fixing a leaky gut. You can listen to Dr. Amy Myers' podcast, read her articles, taking medications that damage your gut, eating healthy foods aren't really healthy, taking the wrong probiotics, eating too many fermented foods, ignoring the other pillars. So great information on there. And then lastly, I found another article from Dr. Myers, while reversing autoimmune disease starts in the gut. So check that out. What is leaky gut? Signs and symptoms. All right, so hopefully that helps. I'll put all this in the show notes, but I just wanted to share as I'm taking this month, the next month, to focus on gut health, leaky gut, SIBO, super gut. FODMAPs, phytates, lectins, oxalates. So hopefully this helps you learn how you can be fit and healthy from the inside out. All right. Thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you next time. All right. Good job, guys.